What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and today we are going to go through my 3-year woodshop progression. When I did my ceramics video, it did really well. So we're going to do one for my carpentry and woodshop. So, first thing as you see here is a blanket chest. This was the very first project I ever made, and it was freshman year of high school. Essentially, process right here. I would take the wood, I glue it together, and I did this for these side panels that you saw right here made out of maple. And then I would glue up the top. And then with the top, I CNC'd the top. And it says York because my last name is York. And at this point, I discovered epoxy resin from the internet. Great thing about epoxy resin, fills all the gaps, lots of different colors, really cool. It is the biggest pain to work on ever. Scraping it's horrible, sticking through sanders is really hard, using orbital sanders is really hard. But with enough persistence, I got it. And we finished the top. And that is kind of how it looked. And then I worked on the side rails of the blanket chest. And as you can see, it has little hinges. Looks really good, made out of walnut and maple. I made that in 2020. Next thing I made was this guitar, believe it or not. My freshman year as well, and this is my first year. I took the guitar woodshop class and then this blanket chest woodshop class freshman year at the same time. So, a few things that you can note about this. I used epoxy resin again. And I used glue to make that river shape, and as you can look closer, it looks pretty good, I think. If you look really close at this sound hole, you can see towards the right side, I made a mistake where I sanded the kind of decorative veneer off too much, and I actually ended up using a pencil to kind of hide it. So those are just some mistakes I made on that. And then the back of it, I laser engraved this tree, and I made the guitar back and sides out of cherry, and the top was made out of Sitka spruce, and the neck was made out of cherry as well. Here's just like that closer of that tree that I laser engraved in. And then the headstock wasn't perfect, still looked fine. The tuning pegs are not perfectly straight, but again, it was the very first year of my woodshop, and considering the guitar, I'm pretty happy with it for the first year, and here's how it sounds. And as you can see right there, that was the guitar and the blanket chest I made first year. Now the second year was Furniture Design 2, and Furniture Design 1 was that blanket chest. This was a media cabinet that I made. What makes this a little more special is there was a little bit more free reign to design it. The blanket chest was just instructions. You follow the instructions, follow the process, he tells you how to do it, and then you replicate it. The blanket chest, you get to actually change some dimensions. You could have done 4 drawers if you wanted to. You can change the base out, a little bit more customizability. So I made it out of walnut because I like walnut the most, and I used these maple or cherry plugs to cover up where I put the hardware and like the screws in. I can't tell if the top is sagging in this picture, it might be, but it's not noticeable in real life. The drawers do not have any glides on it, it's just the wood on wood, and then we kind of put some beeswax on it, I think, to make them slide a little better. So if you notice about these drawers here, they use dovetails, and dovetails are not really that hard. You don't need that much skill to make them, you really just need a jig, and that's what we had. But they add that little bit of extra flavor to the project. The base, very simple base, practical, useful, looks very nice, very modern. Drawers, again, here's a top-down view of it as well. And then finally, here's what it looks like, how I use it. You have your sound station in it if you want. You put your remotes. You can put some blankets in it if you have small blankets. But I have this Lego Concorde that I built, and that's underneath a TV. So the next thing, and I actually made this my freshman year as well during the blanket chest when I learned how to use the CNC machine. This is a Lazy Susan that I made. Looks really good. I'm really happy with it. Used again epoxy resin. If you look at the next picture here, the edges are curved. So nice and smooth, very centered. I bought an industrial like Lazy Susan ring to do it. It doesn't look center, I swear. This is center, it's just the angle. Here you can see a video of the CNC process going and carving out York again and the kind of grooves for the design. I kind of did these little recessed grooves on the edges just so that if you have food and it's spinning, it will try and catch it and mitigate things from spilling off. Again, resin's the worst. I had to use a scraper, a lot of muscle, very tiring. Alright, after that you can see me routing the edges, getting those bubbles in, and then sanding it down. And that is the Lazy Susan that I built. Funny enough, real quick, if we go back to the actual back, this is the side that I was going to do for the design. And I literally just CNC'd the wrong side. So, it still looks good. Anyways, during the second year, I made these pens. And the second from the top and the third from the top, those are pencils. All you do is you take the wood and you use a lathe to kind of, well, okay, you take this tube of steel or copper, stick it in some wood, and then you lathe it, and then that's pretty much it. You put the pen together or the pencil. They all came out really good. Each one takes, half an hour, but I mean, you do a bunch of pens and pencils and the time adds up really quick. Another funny thing I did during my second year was this stapler in epoxy resin, because I love my resin. Kind of a playoff of the stapler in Jello from The Office. As you can see, I built this mold, filled it in with some Lego guys and some gold for like sand-ish. Then I filled it in with the rest of the resin, and then I made kind of the base out of wood as well. And that is the stapler and epoxy. I gave that to my teacher as a gift. Okay, also during those years, I made a lot of cutting boards. Some out of resin, some not. These are just some for gifts and some that I kept as well. You can call them charcuterie boards, cutting boards, but it doesn't matter to me. And here are just a few more photos. Pretty simple to make. Take some wood, you can epoxy them together or not, you glue it together, stick it in a planer, stick it in a sander, finish it, and put mineral oil on it to clean it up. And those are my cutting boards. Okay, after that I did make these coasters as like a Father's Day gift. Essentially all I did is I used a laser engraver and I just lasered the outside and the edge, the design Y for York. And I did 3 woods. I did maple, cherry, and walnut, and it would either go maple base, or here in this exact picture it goes walnut base, cherry pegs for walnut base, maple pegs for the sides, and then cherry for the actual coasters, and then I finished it with a polyurethane. And that's what I did for the Lazy Susan as well, just because that stuff is really strong. I mean, that's the stuff they use for like bowling lanes. So I made 3 sets of these, all with just changing colors. And they came out really good. This is what they look like spread out on a table. Now, the very final year, my 3rd year in school, this was my junior year, because senior year I did all the ceramic stuff. But junior year, I did this. I made this bench, first of all. And this bench has a lot of bends in it, and some of these are made using heated bends. Some of them are laminated bends, where you have a bunch of layers of wood and you glue them together bent. The idea of this is to test your joinery and to also test working with wood that you bend, because wood, nature, does not want to bend. So it's a lot of work to do that. Again, this one right here, you basically as a class, we designed this from the ground up. And it's really, really hard to design an actual project from the ground up. But this is essentially preparing us for the real world, in which you will just be making stuff out of nothing. You have to draw and you have to give the exact dimensions. So as a bench as a whole, you can see from the top down view, very curved. This is just cut out curves using like a bandsaw. Other than the very backrest, those were heat bent. You can also see we did a lot of mortise and tenons, and mortise and tenons are kind of, it's not like the hardest joinery, but it's certainly not easy. It's a very, very respected joinery right there. Here's kind of the bottom view. These were laminate bends where we used lots of layers, and again, lots of mortise and tenons, as you can see. Closer mortise and tenon right here for the seat, and again for the side bottom right there, you can see all these mortise and tenons. And here's me enjoying the bench that I made. Next and final project that I ever did for woodshop before I stopped was I made this presidential podium from the ground up by myself. I didn't have, like, you get help from the teacher, but like as a class we designed the bench, and all the previous projects either we would just follow instructions or we were given like all the prints. This was just from the ground up. And I made this podium by using this picture that I found online, this one as well, and then this one as well, and then here's how I kind of got a scale for how high it should be. Same thing with this kind of screenshot from a video, and then we'll get into how we built it. So essentially I got hired by one of the teachers at my school to build this podium for the debate team, and I ended up charging like I think like $3,000. And even then, you may think that's a lot, but even then I probably like per hour made like $8 an hour. It's a lot of skilled work because you not only have to take the photos, scale it correctly, draw it, and then you have to draw it perfectly and make it so that you know that the scale of everything is correct. I mean, you can't just wing this at all. So I used photos of how tall the president was, and then I used the proportions by literally taking a ruler to my laptop screen and like scaling it down on a piece of paper, and then drawing out sketches from the front, side, and back views. Really, really difficult thing to do. I started with this inner frame for the sides, and then I ended up using bender board wood that is like, it's just like all the grain goes one direction and you can bend it really easily, and that's how I kind of got the outer shape. And then I ended up painting it, and then this I think I used cherry? No, I used mahogany for these brown slabs that you see, and I laminate bent them, and I used a vacuum bag to like suck them to the form, and I let them dry, and then they worked. And I would take these and I would glue them onto the podium, and then the rest of it was painted with this blue, and then I used a lacquer for the finish. Now as you can see here as well, that very front, there's that circle, it's a magnet. So essentially this front plate, you can switch from the debate logo of the school to the presidential emblem that you see here, that I also laser engraved. It was just a cool little customizable feature that I added behind the podium. There was like a little area for your papers and storage for some binders, and then there was a nice slanted mahogany kind of like table platform that you could write on, put your hands on. Something that again is really difficult about a project like this is wood expands and contracts. So all of this had to have a room for things to shift and move without the podium breaking. But this was my final project. It took me a school year. So it probably took me 4 months of working a lot, clocked in a lot of hours. But this, again, is my woodshop progression over 3 years. This is all the stuff that I did. If you enjoyed this video, I have one about drawing that's going to come out. I really appreciate you coming this far. Like it if you did like it. If you didn't like it, just don't do anything. And I will see you in the next video.